I still remember the night my daughter stood in my doorway, her voice steady in a way that felt rehearsed. She said she needed one small favor, the kind only a parent would grant without thinking. But the way she avoided my eyes told me something else was already in motion. If you've ever felt a shift like that in your own family, tell me your story in the comments. The envelope showed up on a Thursday afternoon, mixed in with coupon ads and a utility bill. My name sat on the label in a font I didn't recognize. I tore it open and read the first lines twice before reaching for the phone number printed at the bottom. The call connected after a few tones. Multi-North Bank, this is Carla. How can I help you today? There's a mortgage application under my name, I said. I didn't submit anything. I need this checked right now. Papers shuffled on her end. Our system shows a completed file, Mr. Hale. Signed documents matching identification. Everything appears valid. That's impossible. It was processed last week. If you believe there's an error, you can visit the Fremont Street branch. They'll assist further. Her steady voice bothered me more than the letter. Something in it suggested she dealt with calls like mine all the time, and most ended with the customer realizing their mistake. I knew there was no mistake here. The drive to Fremont Street felt longer than usual. A clerk greeted me as soon as I stepped in. How can I help, sir? A mortgage application is using my name. I need to see the paperwork. He printed a folder and slid it across the desk. The signature on the final page looked exactly like mine, same angle, same pressure on the last stroke. It mimicked years of habit perfectly. That's not my signature, I said. The clerk tilted his head. It aligns with the ID provided. I want to see the footage from the day this was submitted. I'm sorry we can't release internal recordings without a formal request. Then freeze the entire application. Now. He hesitated long enough to make me repeat the demand. A manager walked over after hearing the exchange. Sir, we can halt the process, she said, but the applicant verified family relationship. It's standard procedure. Her phrasing hit harder than the signature. Family. That narrowed the list to one person. A possibility I never wanted to examine settled in my chest. The manager typed a few commands. The file won't move forward until identity concerns are resolved. A printed copy of the submitted ID sat on the desk. The picture held my face, but something about it felt wrong. The brightness washed out the edges, and the outline around the card looked slightly distorted, like it had been trimmed and placed over another background. I picked it up for a closer look, turning it under the office light. The more I studied the edges, the more certain I became that someone had copied my information and rebuilt the card from scratch. The uneven border of that fake ID followed me out of the bank and stayed with me during the drive to the Oregon DMV. A line had been crossed somewhere, and I needed to know how far it went. Her nameplate read, Melissa Grant. Her tone carried a mix of patience and experience. This happens more than people think, Melissa was saying. Identity theft can start small, someone borrowing information without asking and spiral from there. The customer sighed heavily and thanked her. He stepped away, leaving the counter free. Melissa looked toward me. Next in line? A few steps brought me to her desk. I need to check my state ID records. Something isn't right. All right, she said. What's your full name and date of birth? She typed quickly after I answered. The screen cast a faint reflection in her glasses, and her expression shifted. There was a request for a replacement ID filed 2 weeks ago. Do you want to confirm that was you? No, I didn't request anything. Her posture straightened. Then we'll need to flag this. Let me enter a fraud alert. She clicked through several forms. You'll have to verify your current card now. The ID from my wallet went into her hands. She examined it, compared it to whatever the system displayed, then returned it. What made you check this today? She asked. A mortgage application showed up under my name. That's serious. She paused a moment, measuring her words. If someone had access to your wallet, even briefly, they might have photographed your card. A memory surfaced, uninvited. Hannah asking if she could borrow my wallet to grab cash for gas. That had been close to 3 weeks ago. At the time, nothing about it set off alarms. Melissa watched my hesitation. Are you okay? You look like something just clicked. Just connecting dots, I said. If you'd like, I can walk you through how to lock your DMV profile and how the fraud investigation works. It doesn't fix what already happened, but it keeps things from getting worse. Her offer held no judgment, only a quiet understanding. Maybe she'd seen other parents run into problems they never imagined their kids capable of causing. No, that's enough for now, I said. I need to check a few other things. Before stepping away, she handed me a pamphlet. If more charges appear or any accounts behave differently, contact us right away. I opened my banking app. Transaction logs slid down the screen. Small withdrawals scattered through the last month, labeled in ways I'd assumed were automated drafts. A few purchases didn't look familiar. Some were tied to stores I hadn't visited in years. One charge traced back to a mailing service near Lloyd Center. Receipts stuffed in the console told the same story. The spending patterns weren't mine. Someone had been carving their own trail through my accounts. Melissa's warning echoed identity theft can start small. It didn't feel small anymore. A folder of bank papers lay on the passenger seat. The top page listed an address under filing location. I checked it twice, then pulled up the map. The pin landed near the eastern edge of the Lloyd Center. Questions scattered betrayal. Fear of what else had been touched. A dull ache settling under the ribs, but none of them cleared the picture. I gathered the receipts, stacking them as best I could. The engine hummed while I tried to form a plan, my thumb unconsciously tracing the address. The link between that location and the mortgage file wasn't accidental. The filing code printed on the paperwork matched one of the suspicious transactions. I lined up the numbers between the receipts and the address, the picture sharpening into something I didn't yet have words for. The address on the receipt led me to the back lot of the Lloyd Center. Cars idled along the edges, employees moving in and out of a delivery side door. Minutes passed before someone familiar stepped out. Hannah. Shoulders tight, phone in hand, moving fast, too fast. A dark sedan rolled up. The driver said something. She climbed in immediately. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I caught the license plate, snapped a quick photo, and watched as the car disappeared toward the street. Staying parked wouldn't solve anything. I stepped out and headed for the entrance. Behind the counter, a clerk looked up as I approached. "Can I help you?" he asked. "There's a file tied to my name. Someone submitted documents here recently. I need to confirm what was brought in." He hesitated. "We don't usually release details." "I'm not asking for footage," I said. "Just confirmation." After glancing toward a coworker, he lowered his voice. "There was a man who dropped off a packet earlier this month. Said his name was Robert Hale." "Did he show ID?" "Yes. Looked legitimate." "Describe him." The clerk scratched his jaw. Maybe late 40s, hard to tell with the hood up. Seemed younger than you, though. Younger than me. A hood. My name on his lips. The detail stung even though it matched what I feared. "Did he say anything else?" I asked. "Just asked how long the process would take. Didn't stay long." A vibration in my pocket interrupted us. A text from the bank flashed across the screen. "Your application requires immediate verification to proceed. Please submit pending documents within 24 hours." The word proceed made my stomach sink. Each day I waited, someone else pushed the file closer to approval. Thanks, I said, stepping away before the clerk asked more questions. Out in the lot, the phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from my supervisor at the elevator company. Call me when you can. The tone of that text was never good. I dialed him right away. Robert, I've been trying to reach you, he said. HR flagged a mortgage application under your name. That changes your insurance bracket. We need updated paperwork. I didn't file anything. I don't know what to tell you. Until you clear it, they're reducing your hours. It's standard procedure. Reduced hours meant less pay meant overdue bills, and the person who caused it rode away in a sedan with tinted windows. A long breath steadied me, but the anger stayed. Every direction felt blocked. Confronting Hannah without proof would go nowhere. Waiting meant losing more than a few shifts. Back in the truck, the quiet pressed in. Messages, warnings, paperwork, all of it stacked until thinking felt like trying to hold water in cupped hands. My phone lit with another reminder. The application was moving forward without me. Someone had set it up to do exactly that. Before I reached the parking lot, another message appeared. Your mortgage file is approaching final approval. Please complete pending verification. Failure to respond will result in automatic authorization based on the signed consent already submitted. Automatic authorization. They were expecting my silence. The branch manager at Fremont Street recognized me as soon as I entered. Her polite expression from earlier had tightened into something cautious. I need to see a senior manager, I said. Now. She didn't argue. A man in a gray suit appeared a few minutes later and gestured toward his office. What seems to be the issue, Mr. Hale? The issue is that someone keeps using my name. I want every piece of evidence tied to that file. He folded his hands. We reviewed additional materials after your earlier visit. Since the case has escalated, I can share some internal records. He opened a folder on his desk, clicked a few tabs on his monitor, then pulled up a short video clip. The angle was narrow and didn't show the person's full face. A hooded sweatshirt covered most of their head. The figure stepped up to the counter, handed over documents, and signed a form with my name. My signature. My handwriting. Everything looked practiced. Do you see what I see? He asked. The pen strokes matched the file I'd viewed the day before. Whoever did this had studied my signature long enough to turn it into a copy of the real thing. Freeze that, I said. He paused the screen. The view didn't offer much, shoulders, knuckles, the edge of the hood. Nothing that would help law enforcement identify the person. The manager exhaled through his nose. This is why we flagged the case. The ID looked legitimate at first, but the behavior in this clip raised questions. So stop the application. We can't stop it without evidence directly linking the fraud to another individual. We've placed a temporary hold, but the system still recognizes the signed approval. If you don't verify your identity immediately, our automated review may release the hold. Another blow landed before I could respond. He clicked to a second tab, showing a credit report. Your score dropped 76 points this morning due to the risk category assigned to the mortgage. I'm sorry, but it's an automated process. Large loans under dispute create negative impacts. 76 points. Enough to raise alarms anywhere I held an account. He turned the monitor slightly. Your employer may also be notified through insurance channels. They receive updates when major financial changes occur. A cold heaviness spread in my chest. My company already cut my hours. More changes would only dig the hole deeper. Is there anything else you haven't told me? I asked. He cleared his throat. There's a scheduled meeting tomorrow. The file lists your authorized family signer as the secondary contact. Both of you are expected to attend. Authorized family signer. I didn't need to hear the name. A part of me already knew, but seeing it typed on the file would remove the last layer of denial I'd tried to hold on to. The manager slid a printed notice my way. Please review this. And Mr. Hale, get here early. These meetings tend to move quickly." My phone buzzed while I folded the paper and email from HR at my company. "We require updated financial documentation to maintain your current role. Please submit verification at your earliest convenience." Every direction closed around me at once. Work, credit, home, all twisting in ways I couldn't control. The manager walked me to the door and didn't try to soften anything with small talk. He had seen similar messes before, but maybe not one rooted in family. The late afternoon air hit as I stepped outside. It carried none of the relief I hoped for. The email still waited in my hand. The words blurred for a second before I focused enough to read the contact line. Under authorized family signer sat a single name, Hannah Hale. My daughter. She was already in the meeting room when I stepped through the doorway. Her shoulders hunched forward, fingers twisting the strap of her purse. She didn't glance up, not even for a second. The banker welcomed me with a formal nod, then motioned for us to sit. "Thank you both for coming," he said. "We need to verify identity before we proceed." Hannah spoke first. "It's just a misunderstanding. I told you yesterday my dad and I got our paperwork mixed up. He's been stressed, that's all." Her voice wavered at the end, and she bit her lip as if trying to steady it. "We still require individual verification," the banker replied. "Please provide your current identification." My wallet was already open. The card slid across the table without hesitation. He examined it closely, typed a few notes, then looked toward Hannah. "Your ID, please." She fumbled through her purse longer than necessary. A small, practiced tremble showed up in her hands, something she used as a shield ever since she was a teenager. The card finally landed on the table. The banker picked it up, held it toward the light, then lowered it again. "Were you the one who requested a replacement ID 2 weeks ago?" he asked. Her head jerked slightly. "No, I mean, maybe. I don't remember. My boyfriend. He handles some of my errands." "Your name is on the request." "He must have done it for me." Her voice rose a notch. "He said he was trying to help. He's not great with details." She kept talking, piling one justification on top of another. The words tangled together until the banker lifted a hand. "Let me be clear. The mortgage file will be locked in 48 hours if neither of you submits proof of lawful ID ownership. At that point, the system may default to the signed approval we have on record." The chair beneath me felt smaller. A stretch of silence followed. A parent shouldn't sit across from their child in a room like this, neither of them able to trust the other. Hannah leaned forward. "Dad, please tell them we talked about this. You know things have been hard. I wasn't trying to hurt you." The banker watched both of us carefully. He wasn't judging, just gathering information. "I need to show you something," he finally said. He opened a file on his tablet and rotated it so we could see. A digital scan of an ID filled the screen. My face stared back, but the edges of the card didn't look natural. The background behind the photo had faint distortions, like someone dragged a clone tool across parts of it. Layered pixels gave the entire image a warped feel. "This was uploaded through our online submission portal last week," he said. "It accompanied the signature verification." Hannah blinked at the photo, mouth parted. "That's his ID. What's the problem?" "The problem," he answered, "is that this version isn't genuine." Her breathing quickened. "I didn't upload anything. Maybe it was my boyfriend. He owed money. He promised he'd fix it. I didn't know what he was doing." It was the oldest deflection she had. Blame someone else until the room grew too tired to chase the truth. Meanwhile, the pressure in my chest kept tightening. The anger wasn't loud, just heavy-rooted in a kind of disbelief that sat deeper than rage. Watching my own child distort my life for her convenience cut through me in a way I wasn't prepared for. But losing control now wouldn't accomplish anything. She talked faster, rambling through excuses. Guilt slid off her like water off a stone. I kept my voice steady. I didn't authorize any of this. The banker nodded. Then you need to submit a full affidavit today. And Miss Hale, the same applies to you. If neither of you resolves this, the system will treat the signed consent as valid. Hannah's chair screeched slightly as she shifted. Why would the system approve something when he's sitting right here saying he didn't sign it? Because the digital file includes a complete signature match and an ID that appears at first glance authentic, he replied. Her tone sharpened. Then fix your system. He didn't respond to the edge in her voice. He simply gathered the documents and stood. I'll give you both time to discuss next steps. You may check out at the front desk. The meeting ended without closure. Hannah walked out ahead of me, nearly bumping into a passerby. She didn't apologize, didn't look back. She just pushed through the doors and disappeared toward the street. A minute passed before I left the building as well. The air outside felt stale, like a pressure cell had settled over the lot. A few cars rolled by. A delivery truck stopped briefly, then drove away. My phone vibrated. A voicemail alert from my company. The message played automatically. Robert, this is HR. We need updated financial documentation as soon as possible. If your credit situation doesn't improve, we may have to suspend your current assignment. The next morning pulled me back to the Lloyd Center branch before I could talk myself out of it. The manager recognized the look on my face and didn't bother with small talk. I need to see the original submission day, I said. The footage, all of it. He studied me for a moment. The tension from the past week must have settled into my expression because he simply nodded and motioned toward a back office. We've escalated the fraud concern, he said. That gives me more room to release certain records. Let me pull up what we have. His fingers moved across the keyboard. A list of timestamps appeared, each tied to internal cameras. He clicked one. This was the day the first documents were filed. A new window opened. The angle wasn't great, but enough of the counter was visible to make out the employee and the person standing opposite. The figure stepped forward, a folder in hand. The hood of a sweatshirt hid most features. That part didn't surprise me. What happened next did. The employee asked a question. Audio wasn't included, but I recognized the gesture. The figure leaned in and placed a form on the counter. A second later, the employee reached for a binder labeled Life Status Verification. My stomach tightened. The hooded figure pointed at the form again. The employee wrote something, then retrieved a packet from beneath the counter. The manager paused the recording. This is where things became unusual. That form is only filled out when a family member reports a pending death or a recent loss. It's the first step in updating insurance and account protections. A faint ringing filled my head. Play the rest. The clip resumed. The figure, my daughter, though only I seemed willing to name the truth, signed something quickly and slid it back. The employee nodded sympathetically, as if offering condolences. The manager clicked pause again. Whoever this is reported you as deceased, Mr. Hale, or at least soon to be. For a moment, nothing moved. The carpet beneath my shoes, the chair behind me, the edges of the desk, all of it stayed fixed, while something deep in my chest shifted. My voice felt thinner than usual when it finally came. I need a copy of that clip. I can produce a digital file, he said. You'll need to sign a release. This will also be part of our internal investigation. He printed the form. The pen felt heavier than it should have as I filled in the lines. He transferred the footage to a drive and handed it over. Mr. Hale, he added softly, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. No apology could cut through the sharp edges gathering in me, but I nodded anyway. On my way out, the phone vibrated. A message from the fraud department. Your presence is required at an internal review meeting. Your file has been escalated to high-risk status. Please confirm attendance immediately. Each notification carved out more of what I thought my life was. The job, the accounts, the paperwork, everything that depended on stability now hung by a thread someone else had pulled. I sent a confirmation and stepped into the corridor. The screen flashed again before I reached the exit, this time an incoming call. Hannah's name appeared. Answering felt like stepping into cold water. "Hello," I said. Her voice came sharp, layered with fear and something close to indignation. "Dad, you need to stop. You don't understand what's happening. If you keep pushing this, I'm going to lose everything. I can't let that happen." There was no apology, no hesitation, just a warning. "You filed paperwork claiming I was dead," I said, keeping my tone level. "I didn't. That's not what—" She inhaled sharply. "You don't get it. I was trying to fix things. Somebody had to." The words tangled, and the panic behind them slipped through the cracks. Not remorse, fear of consequences, not fear of harm done. A long breath sounded on her end, followed by, "I'm begging you. Don't take this further." My hand tightened around the phone. Saying anything would drag the argument into circles we'd walked for years. So I said nothing. She heard the silence. "Dad, did you hear me?" Only her breathing reached my ear, fast, uneven, frantic. Then the call ended without another word. The branch door opened automatically as I approached it. The hallway stretched out ahead, almost empty at this hour. My feet carried me forward, even though my thoughts stayed behind, still sifting through the memory of daycare drop-offs, scraped knees, school projects, and all the years I tried to be enough. A person can raise a child with every intention in the world and still end up here staring at the aftershock of choices they never saw forming. The USB drive rested in my palm, warm from the manager's computer. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and stopped near the end of the corridor, letting the weight of it settle. The meeting room felt smaller than the last time I'd been in it. A long table stretched down the center, and a stack of folders waited at the far end. I placed my documents on the table, bank statements, ID comparisons, and the USB drive with the footage. A legal specialist entered moments later, carrying a slim laptop. "Mr. Hale," she said, offering a brief handshake. "I'll be conducting this internal review. Please start from the beginning. Walk me through everything you've discovered." Her tone carried no sympathy, but it wasn't harsh, just focused. "The mortgage notice came first," I said. "Then the forged signature, the altered ID, transactions I didn't make. And finally the clip from your insurance counter." She typed as I talked. "Your employer contacted us as well. They reported irregularities tied to your financial verification. That aligns with what you're describing." A knock at the door pulled her attention. She called, "Come in." Hannah stepped in, eyes-rimmed, red jaw tight. She didn't meet my gaze. The legal specialist motioned toward an empty seat. "Ms. Hale, thank you for showing up. We have a few questions." Hannah sat with her arms pulled close to her body, chin tilted downward. "I already said this is a misunderstanding." The specialist clicked the laptop. "Let's start with this." The insurance counter footage appeared on the screen. Hannah's head jerked up as the hooded figure filled the frame. The specialist slowed the playback until the moment the employee handed over the life status form. "Ms. Hale, do you recognize the person in this clip?" Hannah's lower lip trembled. That's not me." "Look closely," the specialist said. "Your height, your build, the backpack you wore when you arrived today. This is you reporting your father as deceased." Her breath hitched. "No, I I was helping my boyfriend. He said his uncle worked in insurance. He told me this was the only way he could fix his debt. The excuses tumbled out, scattered, panicked, shifting blame toward a man who never appeared anywhere except in her stories. The specialist turned to me. Mr. Hale, did you authorize your daughter to file insurance updates on your behalf? No. Did you provide her with your ID? No. Were you aware she accessed any of your personal documents? No. The answers landed without hesitation. No lectures, no long explanations, just facts. A different kind of strength settled in as I spoke, not anger, not fear, something steadier. A line had to be drawn, and I finally understood it wasn't cruelty to hold it. The specialist addressed Hannah again. Your actions weren't small errors. This is a coordinated attempt to obtain a fraudulent mortgage and adjust a life insurance policy. These are criminal matters. Hannah shook her head wildly. I didn't mean for it to go so far. I needed money. My boyfriend kept pressuring me. I thought I could fix it before anyone knew. Her voice cracked on the last words. There were no tears, just desperation. The specialist closed the folder. We're freezing the entire mortgage file effective immediately. Our fraud team will take possession of every document. Ms. Hale, you'll wait outside. The police have been notified. Hannah stood abruptly, chair legs scraping the floor. Mom would never let this happen, she said, voice strained. The comment stung, but I let it pass without a reply. She walked out without looking back. The door shut behind her and the room fell still. The specialist turned to me. Mr. Hale, you've been cooperative and consistent. Before we finalize this portion of the investigation, I need to inform you of something important. She slid a form across the table. You have the right to file an independent police report. Identity theft cases progress much faster when the victim submits their own documentation. Our internal report doesn't replace that. My hands rested on the edge of the table for a moment. Everything felt heavier the past week, the damage done, the truth of how far Hannah had gone. But the weight didn't pin me. It clarified something I hadn't wanted to admit. I understand, I said. The specialist nodded once. Take your time, but I recommend filing sooner rather than later. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office opened early, and I walked in before the morning rush. A clerk directed me to an interview room, where a detective introduced himself, switched on a recorder, and asked me to begin wherever felt natural. It started with a mortgage letter, I said. Then the forged signature. Then the insurance claim. He let me speak without interruption. No sympathetic nods, no reassurance, just room to lay out the truth. When I finished, he pushed a packet toward me. Mr. Hale, this qualifies as identity theft, falsification of financial documents, and attempted insurance fraud. Hannah Hale will face those charges. We'll contact you if we need additional statements. Hearing her name attached to crimes instead of mistakes landed like a blow. Years of raising her alone, balancing late shifts and missed dinners, stitched themselves across my thoughts. The detective didn't comment on any of it. Maybe he'd learned not to. Do you want to add anything? He asked. No, I said. Those are the facts. He closed the file. That was it. No one asked if Hannah struggled at school, or if I'd stretched paychecks to give her what she needed, or how often I'd told myself that loving a child was the same as understanding one. None of that mattered now. A line had been crossed, and the consequences had their own timetable. I stepped back out into the hallway, unsentimental fluorescent lights humming overhead, and headed to the parking lot. Work came next. My supervisor greeted me near the service bay. You doing all right, Robert? He asked. Getting things sorted, I said. HR was worried about your credit report. It's being handled. He didn't press for details. Years in maintenance teach a man when not to dig. The morning passed without issues, Routine checks, basic diagnostics, nothing demanding conversation. The steadiness of it anchored me more than I expected. At lunch, I filled out the forms for a full identity protection program and scheduled appointments to update every major document. The insurance portal required extra verification, and I revoked every access Hannah had ever used. Not anger, just necessity. By late afternoon, the paperwork was done, and the steps felt mechanical enough that my mind drifted only when the tasks quieted. I drove toward Hawthorne, where the park opened near the river. Melissa sat on a bench with a stack of pamphlets beside her, probably finishing a community workshop. She spotted me and raised a hand. "Robert, everything all right?" "Getting there," I said. She nodded slowly. "You look like someone who's been carrying more weight than most people realize." "We found the footage," I said. "It was worse than I expected." She studied my face before speaking. "Family can cross lines you don't see coming. Doesn't make you a failed parent. Just means boundaries matter more than we think." The words weren't advice, not really. More like a simple truth handed from someone who'd watched these cases accumulate year after year. I sat beside her for a minute. The world didn't offer closure. It offered whatever came next. She gathered her papers and stood. And, "Take care of yourself, Robert." "You too." Then she walked away. A few days passed before a letter from the bank arrived. The envelope carried the words, "Reviewed and resolved," across the top. I opened it at the kitchen table. "All fraudulent activity has been removed from your file. The mortgage application has been voided and permanently closed." The tension in my shoulders loosened a fraction. Not relief exactly, just the sense of a door finally shutting. Later that week, during a spare moment at work, a flyer on the bulletin board caught my eye: an evening class teaching woodworking and small machine repair. The kind of slow hands-on work that made sense when everything else felt uncertain. The sign-up sheet hung beneath it. A pen sat on the ledge. My name went on the list without hesitation.